carbohydrate metabolism involves glycolysis, ATP production, and glyconeogenesis. After this, you should be able to describe the basic steps in glycolysis, the citric acid and the electron transport chain system, and summarize the energy yields of glycolysis and cellular respiration. Let's see here. Bam. Well, that's not really subtle. Most cells generate ATP and other high-energy compounds by breaking down carbohydrates, especially glucose. We can summarize the complete reaction as follows. So, glucose and oxygen goes out as carbon dioxide and water. Saliva? Sweat? I don't know. The breakdown takes place in a series of small steps. Several of these steps release sufficient energy to convert ATP to ATP. The complete metabolism of one molecule of glucose provides a typical body cell a net gain of 36 molecules of ATP. This has been debated, like how many ATPs are actually converted. Some say 38 and some say 36, 37, or it really depends on what you mean or what your aim is. Like the total amount of ATP created is actually more than 36, because that would include the ones that makes from glycolysis. But you say you have a net gain, which means the ones that end up in the end, not the ones that has been created throughout the whole process. So most ATP production takes place inside mitochondria, but the first steps takes place in the cytosol. In chapter 10, we introduce the process of glycolysis, which breaks down glucose in the cytosol into smaller molecules that mitochondria can absorb and utilize. These reactions are said to be anaerobic because glycolysis does not require oxygen. The subsequent reactions take place in mitochondria. These reactions use oxygen and are considered aerobic or aerobic. The mitochondrial activity responsible for ATP production is called aerobic metabolism, also known as cellular respiration. Okay, glycolysis. 3 minutes. Glycolysis. Glykos meaning sweet, lysis is a loosening or breaking down. So breaking down of the sweets, sugars. It's a breakdown of glucose to pyruvic acid. In this process, a series of enzymatic steps breaks the 6-carbon glucose molecule into two 3-carbon molecules of pyruvic acid. At the normal pH inside the cell, each pyruvic acid molecule loses a hydrogen ion and exists as the negatively charged ion CH3COCOO minus. This ionized form is called pyruvate. So pyruvic acid becomes pyruvate by the removal of one hydrogen ion. Glycolysis requires 1 glucose molecules, appropriate systolic enzymes, ADP and ATP, inorganic phosphates, and NAD, which is the Nikon nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide. It's a coenzyme that removes hydrogen atoms during one of the enzymatic reactions. And coenzymes are organic molecules that are essential to enzyme function. If any of these participants is missing, glycolysis cannot take place. And this picture, which you might be able to see, not really, but okay, that's glycolysis. It provides an overview of glycolysis. So glycolysis begins when an enzyme phosphorylates, that is, attaches itself to a phosphate group. When an enzyme phosphorylates to the last carbon atom of a glucose molecule, creating glucose 6-phosphate. This step costs the cell one ATP molecule. It has two important functions or results. One, it traps the glucose molecule within the cell, because phosphorylated glucose cannot cross the plasma membrane. And two, it prepares the glucose molecule for further biochemical reactions. Oh, this is so annoying that my face is like baby. A second phosphorylation takes place in the cytosol before the 6-carbon chain is broken into 2 3-carbon fragments of the pyruvic acid. The energy benefits begin to appear as these fragments are converted to pyruvate. 2 of these steps release enough energy to generate ATP from ADP and inorganic phosphate. In addition, 2 molecules of NAD are converted to NADH. The net reaction of glycolysis looks like this. Glucose plus 2 NAD plus 2 ADP plus 2 inorganic phosphates results in 2 pyruvate, 2 NADH, and 6 ATPs. This reaction sequence is anaerobic, without oxygen, and provides the cell a net gain of 2 molecules of ATP for each glucose molecule converted to 2 pyruvate molecules. A few highly specialized cells, such as red blood cells, lack mitochondria and derive all their ATP through glycolysis. Skeletal muscle fibers rely on glycolysis for ATP production during periods of active contraction. Most cells can survive for brief periods using the ATP provided by glycolysis alone. However, when oxygen is readily available, mitochondrial activity provides most of the ATP that the cell needs. Yes.